Hey, what's up, guys? This is dArrAnAsAurus Max up in the Great White North of Canada, getting at you here with a little tutorial on how to MIDI map controllers into iOS apps. So MIDI mapping and this technique can be applied to pretty much anything other than what we're focused on here, but we're just going to focus on this because iOS is the platform I work off of. In fact, I have literally learned how to play and create music solely on an iPad. Got one about 9 months ago and have been obsessed. So for me, I just love going online and learning more and more. And in fact, this video is inspired by some threads at the iPad musician group on Facebook. And hopefully this can contribute in some way to all the wealth that they've been sharing with me. So MIDI mapping is scary to lots of people, and it was to me, and I put it off forever, and I wish I didn't, because it's not scary. It's super easy. It took me less than an hour to really kind of grasp, and now that I understand it, it's very basic, and I think I can transfer that information to you even quicker and show you that it's just one simple concept that you need to understand and just apply it as many times as you want over and over again to control more and more things. So what we're going to do now is start to kind of play around here. And I got 10% battery, so that's interesting, but don't worry about it. Focus on the task at hand, Darren. All right, so we have the QuNeo, which we want to speak to our Animoog with. So we're going to use a USB system to transfer the MIDI messages. And the best way to do that is obviously through the camera connection kit, which sorry, I'm just messing around with some stuff over here. I have plugged into the 30 pin, and it's just turning into a USB. The USB is running out, and that USB's running past Optimus Prime. He's making sure nobody's messing with it as it docks into the back of my little USB hub. So I have one USB running in through the back into a Mini, and then 4 regular USBs, 1 on the top, 3 in the front, giving me a total of 5 devices that can communicate. And it's also a powered USB, meaning it'll give power to things like my QuNeo that the iPad won't be able to power. Unfortunately, it doesn't charge the iPad because the iPad doesn't charge through the connection kit. Those guys just need to work on some better stuff. But regardless of that, let's get back to the task. We have essentially that as our method of communication and power for this. And what we're trying to do is tell certain parts of this to send certain messages to certain parts of Animoog. And we'll work with BeatMaker in a little bit as well. We'll also use 2 methods. One will be through the editor, which is on my crappy $250 Acer laptop. The other will be a mode that you don't need a laptop. You can actually just touch and interface and MIDI learn essentially your controls into a program. Now, not all apps have that. Some are only able to be MIDI mapped through something separate like an editor, but I'm just going to show you what's possible and how simple it really is. So watch this. It doesn't take very long. Let's say I want to play C3. Okay, we're going to start real simple. So C3 is that noise right there. I have a little sine wave to show you that we have something simple and boring that's going to become dynamic just through the amounts of control we can add. Right now, if I slide up and down, I could change poly pressure, maybe control a thing or two, but it's not quite the same as what you're going to see, and that's because that's just Animoog. You can't control other apps at the same time from that. You can't. It's just a little different. And what we're going to do, well, you can to a certain degree, but not like you're going to see. So let's find out, how do we send a C3 from this to that? Well, we need to go into what is provided by QuNeo in their manual, which I have in my iBooks, and I already have it pulled up, which is the note name to note number reference chart. And C3 equals 60. So if I program the number 60 in a note sending capacity here, it's going to make whatever I'm attaching my controller to make notes. So the first thing we'll do is here in Animoog is we're just going to set it up to channel 1. Right now we don't have anything connected. I just want to set it so that we know which channel we're going to work from, so that we can isolate Animoog, so later when we start to work with more apps they won't get confused. Although sometimes crossing apps can be okay because you can do some pretty cool things that way through one message. But what we're going to try and do now is, again, just focus on Animoog. And as we try and program that C60 or C3 into here through the note value 60, all we need to do is just plug it in here over in the USB. That's pretty boring, so I'll show you what happens to the controller when it plugs in. How awesome. is that, hey? That just makes you want to play with it and touch it and just use it. And it's very tactile. You can look away from it. It's pressure sensitive, X, Y, all sorts of cool stuff. So let's keep it simple though and just assign a note to pad 1 here down in the corner. But now if we come over to the editor and click on pad 1, it's already selected, but we'll click on it again, you'll see that the note is off. As I select it, it also brings up the more advanced information for pad 1. So we're going to keep it basic. So we want MIDI channel 1 because that's what Animoog's set to. And we're also going to change this to 60 because that's what C3 is set to. Got it? Simple. Save it. How long have we been here? 30 seconds. I'm going to update it. Watch what happens when I click it. It confirms. Boom. Pull it out. Jack it in. And we're good to go. So we're going to refresh our session here. We'll pull up QuNeo. Boom. And let's go back and see if we can, sorry, filming on a little iPod, one hand at a time here. See if we can get it working and making some noise. Beautiful. Isn't that the most beautiful, boring sound you've ever seen? How easy was that? Took 30 seconds, literally. All I did was type a number there, and we're good. So let's make it a little bit more interesting. Apply the same concept just to more parameters. That's it. You know how to MIDI map. That's it. It took less than 7 minutes and you know how to MIDI map. But what's possible? So we're going to play around with Animoog, Beatmaker, and then I'm going to give you a little impromptu jam. It's not going to be anything really good because I'm not that great, but hopefully we'll just show you that if you link a few different apps together, it can really open up some doors. So again, more for inspiration than entertainment because it may not be entertaining. So let's get a little deeper. Now, not only is this able to send a note, but I can send pressure. I can also send X, Y coordinates. So let's involve that into this. And we'll do that first through the editor mode. And this will be the last time we involve the laptop. All right, so it's connected. Perfect. Let's go into that pad we were already working with, which is on the note C3. We'll come up here and let's add just some arbitrary numbers. They don't have any value. The only reason we're setting numbers is so that we can distinguish the tracks, essentially. So that just like you would separate your tracks in your multi-track recorder, you want the same here with the different parameters. So pressure is going to run off of track 1. So whenever we press harder through track 1, there's going to be a value between 127 and 0 being sent. The higher, the more of the effect you're going to feel on the parameter you link it to. So now that we have 61 and 3 set up, let's save that. We're not going to touch this other stuff. Well, actually, why not? I'll just give you a quick description. So the variable output here means that essentially your velocity is going to be variable depending on how you're sending it in, which is great. And you'll see in a couple drum kits in a second how that really comes into play. And then also down here for pressure, we have constant, which means the more that you press or the harder, the bigger value it sends, the lighter, the gentler. You could set these to set values so that when you touch it, it would just send a set value. That's really another way of controlling it. But we want this to be a little bit more interactive just for our demonstration purpose so that it's reacting to kind of how we're moving. And we have the X and the Y set, and the reason that there's an XY return is because, again, this is divided to 127. So if I were to go across X, this would be 0, this would be 127, and then vice versa. If I was using that to control maybe, let's say, like a knob over here, and there was a frequency I wanted to leave it at, I would let go and it would slip that frequency back to whatever it's set to here for the return. Same thing with the Y. So let's save that and we'll update it. Boom. Pull it out. And we're connected now into the iPad again. And so let's now see what we can set that up to. So we have essentially what's called MIDI map mode. So you click map CCs and you'll see all of these numbers come up. So I'm just going to show you. I could put anything in here. I could double click on the crush knob and type in 96. I could come down here into detune and I could type in 85. You want to kind of keep your numbers either higher or lower than the general note ranges just to not overlap. Not that it makes a huge difference because sometimes you can send it from a different signal, but again, it's just nice to have them separate. And then the way that we can essentially line these up, is, for example, right now we have, if you look on the filter frequency, the number 1. which means that's set to hear whatever is going to play through channel 1. And what we set up channel 1 to play over here again was what? The pressure of the pad number 1. And it's going to be based on how hard we press. So a value between 1 and 127 or whatever is going to get sent over here to the frequency the way that we have it lined up. Now, we can do that by typing in the value, or we can do it through, and this is what a good friend over at the iPad musician group, Jeremy McGill, would really appreciate, is bye-bye. And watch this. So I just click on, let's say, the crush knob, which is at 96, and it turns green, which means it's ready to learn. Now, because there's so much data sent when I press it, I need to somehow isolate that data. And this has a mapping mode called coma. If I hold that down, everything lights up. And now, depending on which corner I press, a different value will be sent. If I press here, it'll send a note value. If I press here, it'll send the pressure value, whatever we've kind of already set it up here. So you do have to have everything with a value already, but it doesn't have to be linked in any particular way per se if you have MIDI Learn on Animoog or Beatmaker. So the bottom left is X and the bottom right is Y. So we're going to link the, let's say, the number 2 value that we put in the X. So when I press it here, you go up here and it's changed from 96 to 2. And then if I come down here, and let's say click the D tune and press the bottom right, it's going to switch to 3, which was our Y value, and it just lit it up there in coma. So I'm going to close coma. We're also going to close the mapping, and we'll go back into just the plain screen here. And now we should be able to control a few things just from the touch of this button here. So let's make sure that this works properly. And the reason that we're not hearing the detune is because I'm going to have to flip on some unison, and there we go. So you kind of get the idea. Alright, now let's go into Beatmaker, because I also know Jeremy would like to know how to MIDI learn in that. So we'll close up Animoog. It served its